In this video, I'm going to have ChatGPT create a Python solution to translate PowerPoints from English into Spanish as well as Spanish into English. I'll put a link in the description to a text file on how to set all this up. This originally came up where I work. Someone wanted to convert Google Slides presentations into Spanish for some students. I'm going to start out with my sample slideshow here. So we have a Google Slides presentation. I'm going to go to File, Download, PowerPoint. Now I don't have Microsoft Office installed on this machine, but I do have LibreOffice. So here is that slideshow, and I want to translate all the English text here into Spanish. Now going back to the Google Slides presentation, one option is to use add-ons to do the translation. Slides Translator, we have various options here. The problem from my perspective with these is if your slides contain any sensitive data, sending it off to a third party to translate can be a problem. Additionally, many of these add-ons cost money. They might be free for translating a handful of slides, but to translate the whole slideshow, some of these actually require payment. So I figured best to come up with an offline solution that can translate the whole slideshow. Now PowerPoint has the ability to translate, though it seems like it's still sending it off to be processed, which is still probably safer than using some third party here, but still having a completely offline local translation from my perspective is ideal. So we've taken our Google Slides presentation, downloaded it as a PowerPoint. It seems like using Hugging Face transformers would be the way to go, as well as using Python. So I'm going to download WinPython. I want this to be a fully portable solution. I don't want to really have to install anything. I want it just to run from a folder. So we'll download WinPython. I'm going to download this WinPython 64 3.12.8.0 slim.exe. Now there might be better solutions for what I'm about to do right here, but this should work. And we'll select Keep. Keep anyway. We can do a sanity check here. So one presumably false positive here. We'll go ahead and run it. We'll extract it to our desktop. So while this is extracting, I'm going to prompt ChatGPT for a solution here. Alright, so it's outputting a script that should meet all these specifications I just outlined. So these are the Python packages we'll need to install. So let's give this a try here. It looks like we're still extracting WinPython. So once WinPython is done being extracted, we'll fire that up and get our needed packages installed, and then we'll see how well this script works that it spit out here. Alright, so that finished extracting. Let's take a look at it. So we'll run the WinPython command prompt. And now we're going to install the needed Python packages, so we'll copy and paste this command. Now I think this is actually named something else. I think it's named maybe Python-pptx. Let's see if we can have ChatGPT troubleshoot this. Okay, yeah, Python-pptx. Press the up arrow key and Python-pptx. I don't know that we need to manually specify this. We'll see again here. Okay, yep. So let's exclude that. So Python-pptx, transformers, and torch. And this may take a little bit of time depending on your internet connection. Now while that's installing, let's actually copy and paste the script it provided for us into Notepad and save that as a .py file. So we'll copy that, open Notepad, and we'll save this into the Python folder. So desktop, WinPython, and the Python folder. We'll call this trans_pptx.py, and we'll save this as a .py file. So save as type all files needs to be selected. Hit save, and it looks like that finished installing. cd ... cd python. I think though we'll need to make this be a pyw file. Python trans_pptx.py. Alright, so now it's asking to browse to a PowerPoint file. I'm going to go in my downloads folder. I'm going to move this to my desktop just to make it easier to visualize. So there's my test slideshow. And if I browse to desktop, select it, enter translation direction, en-es. So it's downloading additional needed components to perform this. Okay, so we need to also install sentence piece. Let's try that again here. Python trans_pptx.py. It asks to browse to and select the file to translate. That would be test slideshow. And we're going to type in en-es, en-es to translate from English to Spanish. We'll also install this package as well while we're at it after this is done. So it popped up the folder and the _es version is there. Let's take a look at it. Now I see it didn't retain some of the formatting. I had this highlighted and the font hasn't been retained either. So let's see if it can fix that. Additionally, I'd like it to have a graphical user interface to select the translation instead of typing it into the command prompt window. We'll have it update that as well. Alright, so in this updated script it's going to preserve formatting. So let's see how that works. Copy that in, select all, paste that in, hit save, and we'll go back to our command prompt window. Let's also install that additional package. And we'll try running that again here. I'm going to rename this to be attempt 1. And it's having us browse. I'm going to select our original English version and then type in en-es. Yeah, so here's my original. And let's see how it did in this version. Okay, that's what I want to see. Now, I'll need to kind of move things around. But that's okay. I mean, you're going to have a different volume of text. You can certainly play with the size of the text just to make it fit in. This is what we want to have. We want to preserve the text formatting. Now let's actually translate it back into English just to see how good of a translation it did. So I'm going to run this again, and I'm going to specify test slideshow _es. And I'm going to type es-en to translate it back. And it's downloading additional components to make that possible. The additional PyTorch model and additional files. So here it kind of had a little bit of an issue. A little bit interesting there. Slide 13 is another problematic one. So we have some issues with the reverse translation, but I think the issues it's coming across are just repeating text as opposed to it being an incorrect translation. That is interesting, though, to see it do that. So let's see if we can refine the graphical user interface a little bit here. Alright, so now we're going to have a language selection from the graphical user interface. And we're also going to save this as trans_pptx.pyw, and we're going to launch it from Python W. So there's a script. I'm going to copy it. We'll go back to Notepad, Control A, Control V. We're going to save this as trans_pptx.pyw, and then Python W trans_pptx.pyw. So whereas before when it was launching it was popping up right into a browse to a file window, but I wanted to actually pop up an earlier window and then have the user click on browse, select a file, select a language, the target language, and then click on a translate button. So let's see how that works. Copy that and paste that into, save that. Alright. I think I'd like it to center this text. Alright, we'll give that a try. Control A, select all. Control V, paste. File, save. So we selected our file. We're going to go from English to Spanish and click Translate. And as a success pop up here, translation complete, file saved as. And let's see if it overwrote it. Modified at 424, it's 436. Yep. So it overwrites if it already exists. So let's make a shortcut to this. Let's also move this to the C drive. I'm going to move this whole folder to the C drive. And actually, I think the only files we really need, or the only folder we really need, is this Python folder. And then within this, there are some other folders we could delete. Site packages, that's where these packages that we installed are located. We can get an idea of how large some of these are. 1.21 gigs, 4.41. So I'm just going to stash this away in the root of my C drive. So we're going to need to run Python W and specify our trans_pptx.pyw file. So let's right click on the desktop, go to New, Shortcut, and it's going to be C drive WPY64-31280/python/python w, and then trans_pptx.pyw. And we'll call that translate pptx and finish. So again, the target is python w.exe in that path, and then trans_pptx.pyw. If we run that, it takes a little bit of time, but it should then pop up the graphical user interface where we can select the file to translate, select the source and destination language in this case, English to Spanish, and then hit translate. Yeah, and again, we're having that duplicated text. Let's see if this makes any difference. Copy that, and we're going to paste that in. First, I'm going to browse to the WinPython folder, Python. I'm going to rename. So we'll save this updated version after backing up the previous version. Alright, that looks better. Alright, let's convert that back into English and see how well it did. So there's our original, and it's going back from the translated version, Spanish back into English, and we'll compare against the original. This being more of a technical document or a technical slideshow, certainly the translation won't be perfect. But a more general slideshow, you might have a better translation. So kind of a neat use of generative AI to create a translation tool that runs locally and doesn't require purchase. You have the data security of running it locally, as well as not needing to worry about a subscription or a one-time payment, and certainly can be fine-tuned if needed. Though I think it is saving, it's saving some content into this. Yeah, it's saving the models in this .cache folder. You might want that cache to be saved within the Python folder so it could be more portable. So just an update, I did prompt ChatGPT for additional information on how to make this work with the cache directory being in the Python folder instead of in the root level of the user folder. I did get something that I believe works now. So that's this script right here. I'll have the link to this in the description. But now when it runs, we take a look at where it's running from. So in my case, WinPython folder and then the Python folder within that. Here's the script as it is right now, and it's creating this folder called hf_cache, and this is where it's going to put those models instead of putting it in the user directory, the user folder right here, .cache. So I've already converted from English to Spanish my test example, but I'm going to translate it back to English so I get the other model. So if I go back to my Python folder and we look at this hf_cache, I'm going to select that PowerPoint again, the Spanish version, and go Spanish to English and translate. And we see that other model appear. It's downloading it. Now to debug this, I am actually running python.exe instead of pythonw.exe, but now that I have this working, I'm going to switch it back to pythonw.exe so I don't get this terminal window here. Alright, looks good. So I'm going to go to Properties of my shortcut and change that back to pythonw. So it's C drive, WinPython folder, Python, and then pythonw.exe, and then the name of the script, which in my case, just for testing purposes, was trans_pptx2.pyw. Now in this case, I was just making a different version, so eventually that 2 will go away. So just to verify that this works, if I go to my user folder, delete this .cache folder, and I'll delete these translated versions, and then we select the PowerPoint, English to Spanish, translate. Should be fairly quick because there's nothing to download. It's already saved in the working directory, which would be C drive, WinPython folder, Python folder, and then hf_cache. There they are. A link to the updated script will be in the description.